The pots that make the things to be done, let it flow like the water. Comedy has taken South Africa by storm. From ordinary folks on social media to the seasoned professionals on international stages. Listen, humour has always been a part of the fabric of South African life and how we deal with challenges. But do we sometimes take it too far? Take the fetching of black Twitter to irreverent cartoons? Let's get started. Good evening and welcome to the Democracy Gauge. I'm Bongani Bingwa. Tonight we're looking at the funnier side of South African life. We've seen a rise in the number of comedic acts that deal with politics and of course political satire through cartoons. Both forms of socio-political expression are protected by the Constitution, but do the cartoonists and the comedians sometimes take it too far? We've seen comedians like Trevor Noah and Dumi Morake really lead a generation of stand-ups who tackle politics but also provide a different perspective on issues. Of course, cartoonists like Jonathan Shapiro have also shown how a pencil sketch can provoke controversy and yet make a statement at the same time. And so tonight we're asking, do our comedians and cartoonists sometimes take it too far? You can choose from our three colors: green for yes, maybe for yellow, and if you want to vote no, red is your color. You can go to sabcnews.com/elections to vote, and of course we extend the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Remember to use the hashtags SABCDG25 or hashtag SABCNews. Right, let's now hear what comedian Krijay Govender has to say. Here's a WhatsApp voice note.
So I'm a big believer in inclusivity, so I believe that the more voices, the better. All voices need to be heard in socio-political discussions. That's why they're discussions. Comedians, yes, they're special. I think because we can make uncomfortable discussions comfortable. We can take the edge off. We are like the face towel to a breastfeeding mother in public. We make the uncomfortable comfortable and digestible. Not the milk, but the face towel. You get what I mean.
All right, let's get straight into the conversations then. I've got two guests tonight. Comedian Dumiso Lindi, who's here with us in Johannesburg, and of course we'll also get to our Durban studios and speak to cartoonist Nanda Subin. Dumiso, welcome to the Democracy Gauge. Come on in, don't be shy, be shy. A very good evening to you.
Yes,
Thank you so much for being a part of our show. Of course, Nanda, you are in our studios in Durban. A very good evening to you as well, and thank you for participating.
Hi, Bongani.
Dumiso, I'll start with you. I mean, there is almost this explosion of comedy in South Africa. We've got interest internationally. We've seen the success of the likes of Trevor Noah, but he's not the only one. What's been the key to just how much South Africans have fallen in love with comedy?
What's been the key is the best thing about South Africans is we know how to laugh at each other, at ourselves actually. And I don't actually know what's the key, but we as comedians are there to just, soften things up. Because I always say to people, we like the news, 7 o'clock news or whatever time news, but we're the funny side of the news. Not the serious side of the news. As
Krijay say, you take the edge off, but you've got a particular way in which you can make, as she argued, the uncomfortable comfortable.
Yeah. And whether we go over that line or not, or we're offending or not, we will never know until we cross that line.
And then it's
an
too
invisible
late.
line. Yeah.
All right, Nanda, let me bring you into this conversation. I mean, we've seen political satire, particularly from cartoonists, but there are also a lot of uncomfortable conversations to be had around perpetuating tropes around race, for example, the way offending politicians are sometimes depicted. Whilst the message is powerful at times, people can also feel some discomfort with how cartoons sketch their art form.
Yeah, am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Yes, Bongani. Okay, I think race is an issue that you can tackle. It depends how you got to do it in a sensitive way You pick on stupidity, not in the fact that someone is racist, but you show how stupid a guy is, by making these racist statements. But in a cartoon, we don't really tackle racism. We tackle corruption. We tackle stupid politicians and things like that, like Donald Trump and a few names I can't mention.
Sure, but I mean, part of the conversation that's become uncomfortable, I mean, we're asking the question, do cartoonists sometimes take it too far, or comedians? Part of the uncomfortable conversation is that cartoons themselves can be interpreted as racist at times.
Yes, but I think the cartoon that get us into more trouble is the one that you do on religion more than race. Religion is a very odd topic when it comes to cartoons. Look, when I pick on Zuma, it's not about race. It's about corruption. Zuma did say some cartoonists are racist. I don't know whether he was talking about me or the Piro, but it's about the corruption. It's nothing to do with race.
Are there any holy cows? Are there any no-go areas?
Well, only after you do the cartoon and you find that you trampled on somebody, and it can be a little costly.
I'll bring you back in the conversation, Dumis. I mean, sometimes it's a fine line, is it not? The idea of you have freedom of speech to say whatever you like, but also in our constitution, the right to dignity is something that's very important. Where's that fine line? Where's the sweet spot?
As I've said earlier, we don't know where the line is. I always say, if you know how to handle the subject, then go ahead and do it. But if you don't, especially on stage and it's live and you can't really go back and say, oh no, I made a mistake there, or I offended somebody, just don't do it, you know?
Here's an interesting dimension to all of this, is that ordinary South Africans through social media have also had a voice, in the same way that everybody's a journalist, everybody's a comedian, right?
Yes.
Through GIFs, through memes, social media commentary through threads can also be a form of comedic expression.
Yes, especially in the last 2 years or 3, you've seen people make videos, you've seen people make memes and stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about that. It's just that it's how we express ourselves, I guess.
It's absolutely. I mean, if you think about cartoons as a way of telling the struggle against apartheid, there were a lot of pieces that would have been banned that simply wouldn't have made it, under the old regime that we are now seeing you cartoonists be able to draw.
Yeah, cartoonists must be able to draw, and then you got to be able to think. You just can't have one without the other. But then again, there are lots of lots of people who have good ideas, maybe comedians, stand-up comedians, who can deliver it. They could deliver a punchline like a cartoonist has to draw a punchline.
Has there ever been a cartoon that you thought had taken things too far?
Yeah, I did get into a lot of trouble with one religious cartoon. I used the Lord's Prayer. It was about the condom. They said that the Catholic Church, they were not supposed to use condoms. And I drew a cartoon where I used the Lord's Prayer, and I said, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy condom comes." And that got me into a lot of trouble.
Did you regret it, or do you think that your point was well made?
I got my point well made, and I apologize.
You had your cake and eat it there, Nanda Subed. All right, Dumisa, let me finally bring you back into the conversation. I mean, have you had a moment of regret on stage? Maybe you punched it a little too hard?
Not really, because I've learned the art of making fun of somebody and make them laugh at the same time. You know, not to make them feel offended. But I've seen how other comedians who are on the edge, who not on the edge, but who push it to the edge, you know, and they're not scared of it because that's their style. Also, comedy depends on style. You can be a very light comedian, you can be a very heavy hitting comedian, you know, or you just focus on politics. Also, the person you're making fun of, you find that the people who are offended it's not the person that you're talking about, but it's other people. So
supporters of such a person.
Making an example, you can make a joke about the president, but the supporters of the president are offended, but the president is laughing.
Yeah, or even perhaps pastors who might want to raise people from the dead, right?
Exactly, but the churchgoers are the offended
sometimes
ones.
the ones who get offended. Right, we'll leave it there. Comedian Ndumisa, thank you very much for being part of our conversation.
Thank you,
and we thank you, of course, also in Durban, in our Durban studios, Nanda Subin there. Now, every day we have a poll question that we ask you, and you can interact with our polls on sabcnews.com/elections and on Facebook and Twitter. Remember to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and hashtag SABC News. Tonight in our poll, we're asking, do comedians and cartoonists sometimes take it too far? You can choose from our 3 standard colors: green is for yes, yellow for maybe, red for no. We'll share your views after the break.
Everyone wants a dignified funeral.
That is what a clientele funeral plan can give you. Lasting dignity.
I just want my family to be there, all relaxed, not worrying about paying for anything, knowing that clientele covered everything.
I would like a dignified funeral, and the rest should be invested for my children's future.
Clientele funeral plans pay out in 24 hours. We will even send 200 Rand airtime. You can cover up to 13 people on one plan. Plans include grocery, unveiling, and transport benefit. Plus, you can get all your premiums back.
I told my family, I don't want a fancy funeral. They must come there for a cook sister and a sandwich, and then they must use the rest of the money for their future.
I will never stop paying my monthly premium. To me, paying my monthly premium is as important as buying groceries.
SMS LIFE to 31043 and we'll call you back.
Hey, it's Reno Race. Would you like to renovate a room in your house? Then don't despair, because Metonoya, Tina, and their team of helpers are on the rescue. There'll be some silliness and a lot of running. But most importantly, it's out with the old and in with the new. Joy! Reno Race, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. only on SABC 1. Zanzi for sure.
It's all things gangster and power in the kingdom of Kwamashu as 2 families immerse in the contradictory world of church and crime. Uzalo, weekdays at 8:30 p.m. on SABC 1. Zanzi for sure.
We are at the forefront of Africa's tech discussion.
We're already planning for the 5G spectrum to be licensed by 2020.
In Mauritius, for fiber migration, we had a strategy. On network, we have gadgets, robots, and more.
We focus on investing in entrepreneurs and technology in emerging markets.
There's technology and social media news on network with me, Spomenele Zondi, every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back. So let's find out what some of you are having to say, particularly via social media. We've taken a couple of tweets. Here's a couple on Twitter. Tats Basi says a cartoonist drew at Edmnangagwa boarding the most expensive jet plane there is, while paying no attention to viral videos of doctors crying for bandages and syringes. And I thought the same thing myself. Cartoonists really do take it too far. So that's one particular view. Let's see what else is on Twitter. And Client Lamundao says, cartoonists end up abusing other people's rights in the name of freedom of speech. With every right, there are limitations. You can't just continue abusing people and think there won't be consequences. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I think that's part of our conversation a little earlier on. Freedom of speech balanced with, of course, the right to dignity. Let's go to Facebook. Marabunya says, if these politicians stopped producing moomish after moomish, then people would have nothing to make fun of. And that's really the point, isn't it? Perhaps not the comedy or the reflection on the real issues, but the initial offenses. All right, those are the views on social media. Up next, we find out what you have to say to us directly. All right, this is the People's View, which allows you then to interact with us live and share your views candidly. We're asking the questions, do comedians and cartoonists sometimes take it too far? Well, here's what one Tips Shampunizer had to say.
Do comedians and cartoonists take it too far? Well, sometimes we have to define too far, because as a comedian, part of the responsibilities is to make sure that we address like serious issues in a humorous way. So sometimes we find when they say too far is when we really have spoken the truth. So I'm not speaking for other comedians, but I'm speaking for myself. I'm saying every time when they say too far, it means you've said the truth a bit too early. Like people are not really ready to hear it, but it's the truth. So I don't think we take it too far. I think we say it as it is. We're just saying the things that most of you don't want to say with the fear of what. But our job is just to make you laugh at yourself and look at serious things with a smile and address them in the same way. So that's from me to you, man. I'm Tip Shampunizer, and I'm just taking this video too far.
Well, if you want to be part of the People's View in our next show, send us an email to dg25@sabc.co.za. At the end of this show, I'll throw forward to our next topic. Masilo Machaka from Limpopo is undoubtedly one of South Africa's biggest sporting fans. His story is coming up after the break.
In my time, I've truly seen it all firsthand. Angizwanga ngizibonele ngalawam amehlo. Going through my photographs and reflecting on my memory box really brings back many life experiences that are bittersweet and humbling. In this, my homeland, I've entertained tourists and offshore traders. I've evolved from dealing with the battering system to trading foreign exchange. I've traveled to the ends of the world and tasted a diversity of culinary palates. To outsiders, I have lived alongside wild animals, tamed some, and collected livestock as wealth. So my memory box is overflowing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bragging, but in fact, I'm breaking and hurting deep down inside of this heart of mine. Why? What for? I hear you ask yourself, my fellow Africans, friends and family. The images I have of me are those of the point of view of my onlooker, not those of myself, the subject at hand. I'm choking and suffocating at the chalice those anthropologists and filmmakers tie around me as some sort of grand name tag. Stories have been made and told of me, not of my own words. Films and graphic images have entertained millions of audiences at my expense.
Welcome back. Well, as you know, through the Democracy Gauge, SABC News has been profiling different South Africans. We've traveled the length and breadth of the country to speak to ordinary South Africans. You can find all of these stories on our website, SABC News/elections. So this is the homepage, but of course, there's our map. And if you click on any of these markers here, you'll find all the previous stories that we've profiled here. There are specific videos, if you remember them. We've gone really from the Northwest to the Eastern Cape, to the Western Cape, to KZN, Gauteng, and today is no different because, of course, we are going today to find out a story that is going to be telling us exactly about the future of one of South Africa's biggest sporting fans, an avid Kaizer Chiefs fan. He loves the Proteas, he loves the Springboks, and he is from Limpopo. Masilo Machaka is often on TV screens. You may have seen him before. Well, here's his story.
Masilo Machaka, another place, Limpopo. Yeah, so I went to school like Fegile High School. Then after matriculated, Fegile High School, then I got Lamujos. So Johannesburg, that's where we seek opportunities. So get lemo Johannesburg, at school or limsebits. Yeah. So again to sports. Yeah, to support that Lama boys. Kids are Chiefs. So this was support cricket and rugby. Go ball because by then negabona kwa sports sabo cricket le rugby di sports sabo tsa batho ba shwe o bona rena batho ba ntshune armo sports ntsha tshwana le rugby and cricket. That is why too much into soccer. Yeah, up until negitla mo Johannesburg gona bona rena man aish only opportunities when I must about cricket, rugby and also netball and other sporting codes as well. Yeah, the moment to let me venture into other sporting code. That is why let's more cricket and more rugby as well. We are gonna go cricket gumnate, go rugby na right, bar amuela na raba fela, ribina go fela, how now or ne gumtum show gumtum whatsoever don't because Kafela support one thing which is sport. So we are gonna democracy irregulated or learn cricket and rugby, especially on the grandstand. If it does if you are checker the games that in cricket and rugby or maybe I can to know never talk about that opportunity or support a different sporting code. Shaba, especially more football, Arsoba won but Toban, Nara Ipona has a cricket and rugby, but the one of us Ipona has because football. Maybe Banagana go football, how safe, on a long a safe environment, where to enjoy, so a family environment. When I'm everything more thing, when I'm more, I have more. Yeah, Mongare everything more on and take the opportunity to not do on at the moment. Monor nice so service Hamnat go Babangwe, Basa Charales, Abanyago Tawadi Tulum, Babangwe, Habanyago those opportunities. Do now we are going to do opportunities. Impa Baba Chering Gopeli, Rohopela Barbule, Babule, some other youngsters, about 12 so Abule the opportunities or can the Honovana candidate. Yes, that we are paid. Gampogible Lankawanagare, Home Sevides. It open opportunities diona impa baba ngobanor ne ababona hale banor ba kwetse ditsela ha ba dibula aba bule menyako e re khona ho tsena then re khona ho ya pele wa mphato.
The 15th of March 1994. Do you remember where you were on this day in that build-up, of course, to those historic elections 25 years ago? One of the highlights of the Democracy Gauge is how it's allowed us to go deep into the SABC's archives to try and give you a sense of what was happening. Of course, you'll notice we are counting down to the 2019 elections, and so on a parallel process, we're looking back at what was happening 25 years ago. Then ANC president, not quite yet the president of the country, Nelson Mandela, was visiting Bophuthatswana, where of course workers at that point were concerned about whether or not they'd receive all their benefits, including pensions and salaries owed to them in the new dispensation. And he went to address them forcefully to say that if the ANC won the 1994 elections, they would not lose out.
Ukanti owayesakuba ngumongameli waseBuphuthatswana umnumzana uLucas Mangope uthe esekhimbali izolo uza kubamba iseshoni yeparlamente yakhe namhlanje. Kodwa umnumzana uMangope akazange awubeke umcondo wakhe kule ndawo.
It is because of the importance which the African National Congress has attached to business in our country. Because ever since our comrades returned from exile and others were released from jail, we have had many meetings. I'm very sorry. We have had many meetings with business in this country, the big corporations and medium-sized business and small business, to explain our policy to them very clearly to exchange views, and we have profited from those discussions. There are certain adjustments we have made to our policy as a result of the concern on the part of business. And because we are building a new South Africa, even where we did not fully agree with the views of business, because we want them to come forward with us in this process, we have accommodated their views. It was in that spirit that I asked to see business here to explain in very brief outline what our policy is towards business.
Yeah, but a snapshot of history there, all the ANC bigwigs, Thabo Mbeki, Nelson Mandela, and of course you saw even Winnie Madikizela Mandela in that package. All right, let's see what today's poll result looks like. You have been voting, of course, in our online poll. So let's show you exactly what the picture looks like. We've been asking the question, do sometimes cartoonists and comedians take it too far? And there it is. Yes, 37%. The maybes are at 21% and the no's are 42%. So not everyone comfortable with the level of comedy, but that's the picture. We thank you as always for taking the time to watch and to participate in our show. On Monday, we are asking, is black tax an unfair burden? Our poll is now open. You can choose from our three colors. Green is yes, yellow maybe, red is no. You can interact with our poll on sabcnews.com/elections. And of course, you can answer the question on Facebook and Twitter, remembering to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and hashtag SABC News. As I said earlier, you can view all our profiles on our website, including that one that was featured today in that segment on history, also on our website. If you want to be part of the People's View, all you have to do is send us an email, and you can do that at dg25@sabc.co.za. Thank you for watching. From me, Bongani Bingwa. Until the next time, ubusuku benzolo. Good night.